as we've seen happen with Canada particularly. So it could be an opening gambit for negotiations, but even in the best case scenario, this is going to be a tough one.
Absolutely, Sanjay. In fact, sources tell us that the Indian government doesn't expect the reciprocal tariffs to just be on them. They're saying if it is a broad part of the US policy, if they're doing it for a number of countries and India is also on the list, then it is understandable. This is how the Indian government is explaining this right now. But if it becomes too India specific, they will have to be ready to take this up with the US administration here during the Prime Minister's visit as well. And we can tell you, and sources tell us, that the Indian side is preparing for those very tough negotiations. We're also told that the government is prepared with about 10 or 12 areas where we can offer concessions to the Trump administration, be it medical devices, be it electronic components, surgical equipment, also electric vehicles, cars, high-end motorcycles. But we would want a win-win partnership as far as the trade deal goes. We hear that the Indo-US joint statement is going to be very significant. It will have a major paragraph on the trade partnership and may set the tone for a limited trade deal between both Prime Minister Modi and Donald Trump to be signed when Donald Trump visits India later this year for the Quad Summit. But everything is now contingent on how the White House slaps those reciprocal tariffs. Perhaps this is the reason why the Indian government has kept the Prime Minister's visit so short. He arrived here at 6 p.m. yesterday. He leaves around 8:30 or 9 p.m. today. So it's a visit which is a little more than 24 hours. Probably because the Prime Minister wants to keep it to the point, keep it to business, keep it a tight working visit. Don't make too much of a pomp and show or celebration, because currently the actions of the administration in the US are very unpredictable. Let me also go across to my colleague Siddhant, who's joining us right now. Siddhant, what are you picking up on the Indian government's strategy to deal with the new Trump administration?
Well, see, this is not the first time that India is handling a Trump administration. India is very well experienced because in 2017, if we recall, then the entire world was, there was a lot of fear mongering around Donald Trump coming to Oval Office for the first time. Countries were perhaps very skeptical at that point in time. And then in 2017, Minister Jaishankar said that don't demonize Trump, analyze Trump. So perhaps Indian side is fully prepared. It's not that they are not concerned about the threats that Trump is issuing for India as far as a trade war is concerned. But Indian side know it very well how to handle Donald Trump. Donald Trump wants to be seen as a president in action. He loves cracking deals. He loves this word called deal. He also wants to, prove to his people, to the MAGA supporters, that the promises that he made in the run-up to the elections, now he is delivering on those promises. Now, India also understands Trump's position very well. So, as you rightly pointed out, there are some areas which have been where India could offer concession to US. In fact, India could open up market for US products. We could also expect some kind of agreement as far as trade is concerned. But this is also very important to understand that India-US relationship is beyond personalities now. There is not one or two areas of cooperation, from nuclear energy to defense to strategic interest. There are a lot of areas, from emerging critical and emerging technologies. There are a lot of areas in which these two countries are cooperating. So we could expect announcements in civil nuclear energy. In the union budget, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has already set India's goals for nuclear energy. Perhaps we could expect with the private companies from United States to collaborate with the Indian companies to build small modular advanced reactors. That there where we could expect MOUs to be signed between the two sides. Trump push India for more defense deals, as US has already showcased its air might by sending F-16s and F-35s in Aero India show. So that could also be discussed. Modi could also take up the issue of the delay in the jet engines. And at the same time, when it comes to the issue of immigration, then India could take up the issue of Indian being sent handcuffed and chained in US military aircraft. So that particular issue can also come up. India could ask for more H-1Bs. India could also raise the issue of delay in visa issuance to Indians, because last time around when Mr. Jaishankar was in DC, he did said this in his press conference that if visa is delivered in 400 days, then it doesn't serve the purpose of relationship. So there are a lot of issues which are to be discussed between the two sides, and obviously Russia-Ukraine conflict can also come up for discussion. Prime Minister Modi visited both the countries. India has a very neutral position. India is on a side of a peace. Perhaps Prime Minister Modi's perspective could help US negotiators as they have started negotiating to end the war. Back to you.
Right, and clearly the geopolitical environment will be on the table. Just yesterday, Donald Trump had a long phone conversation with President Putin. He also had a conversation with Zelensky, and Donald Trump said that we are going to end this war. So let's see how that goes through. But clearly, Donald Trump would like to share his experiences, his insights into the war with Prime Minister Modi when they meet. Speaking about reducing the trade deficit, there are a number of areas where India is working on to bridge that deficit in order to address concerns of Donald Trump. One is buying more US energy. Several Indian ministers have gone on record to say we're absolutely all right with buying more US LNG, more US crude oil, if we get the right price. So we do believe that after this visit, we are going to see Indian oil companies, Indian petroleum companies signing long-term LNG and crude oil agreements with the US government. On the defense front, we hear that there are certain low-hanging fruit which are being explored. One could be the acquisition of more Hercules transport aircraft for the Indian Armed Forces. It could be the P-8I maritime patrol aircraft that we could buy for the Indian Navy. And let's not forget nuclear energy as well. As Siddhant was pointing out, small modular nuclear reactors. India is going to emphasize in the meeting that civil liability for nuclear damage was a sticking point in the partnership between India and US companies, because they felt that the liability for any kind of nuclear damage is very high in India, and it's almost prohibitive to enter the Indian market. In the budget, the finance minister announced a plan to have a 20,000 crore nuclear energy mission, 100 gigawatts of nuclear energy by 2047. She also said that we will make changes to our Civil Liability for Nuclear Damage Act, and perhaps we will now come up with a limited liability clause. So all of this, we hope, will appeal to the new Trump administration. Let me also play out a conversation with Sri Thanedar. Sri Thanedar, the Democrat lawmaker, spoke to Zaka Jacob some time back on India's influence on US-India relations going forward.
All right, so how does India navigate? There are two parts to this conversation. One, of course, the threat of the Trump tariffs, and of course, the immigration issue, which has now come to the fore with the deportation of over 100 illegal immigrants. Joining me now is a U.S. Democrat congressman from the state of Michigan, one of the few Indian-American congressman who is in the House of Representatives. Mr. Sri Thanedar is a Democratic congressman joining us from the state of Michigan. Thank you very much, Congressman, for speaking with us. So this is going to be the first visit of Prime Minister Modi to meet President Trump in his second term as President of the United States. What are your big expectations? What can one look forward to in the meeting that's going to happen at the White House later tonight?
Well, look, in the past, when these two leaders met, they had good chemistry. They have good friendship. Can that continue? Trump is in a different mood now. Trump has expressed a lot of concerns about India's tariffs. He called India a tariff king. So this is a time where the two countries need to get together in a way on a more of a friendlier path, continue that chemistry that they have built in the past. And one good thing that have happened is India has already, preemptively lowered the tariff on some goods so that more American products could be purchased in India. More trade could happen from the US to India. India currently have a $32 billion surplus. So what Trump is looking for is a more fair trading relationship, and both countries need to make certain concessions for that to happen.
How does India navigate the threat of the Trump tariffs? Because Mr. Trump has referred to India in the past as a tariff king, as a trade manipulator and so on. So how does Prime Minister navigate this sensitive issue when he meets with President Trump in a few hours from now?
It needs to. And India has already taken a good step in lowering some of the tariff unilaterally. So that is certainly a good start. And Mr. Trump is in a much more combative mood now in his second term, having won a mandate. He is much more on a combative terms with many countries in the world. He really feels that United States gets a raw deal, and he is trying to get the best leverage, best bargain he can get. And so the two countries need to work together in a more positive manner, in a more collaborative manner. If either country starts a tariff war, it's not going to be good for the people of either countries.
All right, so that was Sri Thanedar saying that high tariffs are not good for anyone. In fact, I spoke to John Newfer, the president of the US Semiconductor Industry Association, and they were quite worried about Trump's plan to impose 100% tariffs on chip imports into America from Taiwan. He said if that were to happen, it would be problematic for the US semiconductor industry and it would cause disruptions. His advice to India was have a zero tariff policy when it comes to semiconductor components and manufacturing, so that you can be a big player for the US supply chain as well. His advice was almost all US partners are offering the United States zero tariffs on semiconductor components. So why not India? Clearly, that is a negotiation that will be on the table. We would like to continue the broader US-India initiative on critical and emerging technologies, but it's possible that the nomenclature of this may be changed. But as far as the joint statement goes, I'm given to believe that there will be strong paragraphs on AI, on innovation, on civil nuclear partnership, and of course the trading relationship as well. But let's just talk about the tricky issue of immigration. US has pointed out to India over the last few months there are 18,000 Indian nationals who need to be taken back. They're staying illegally in the US. The manner in which the Indians were sent back in restraints, in handcuffs, caused a huge furor in the Indian political circles. Sanjay, do you think Donald Trump will be considerate when it comes to this demand for not handcuffing Indian nationals, or do you think he'll be transactional and want something in return?
Well, that kind of decision is not really Trump's decision. These were people sent by military aircraft. The US administration already, and further communication is expected later today. And it's very likely that the manner of deportation will not be a replica of what we saw, which is to say that people will not be necessarily chained and shackled. And this has not been the practice. In September of 2024, a plane load arrived in New Delhi with Indians deported from the US. They were not handcuffed, they were not shackled. In this instance, a military aircraft was used, and certainly Indian sensitivities have been expressed and will be taken up further. But of course, there is not going to be an easy solution to the immigration issue and the illegal migrants issue. And very quickly, Pariksha, there are three categories here we're talking about. One is people who are simply caught at the border and immediately deported. This seems to have been the case with a lot of the recent deportations.
Right. Let me also speak about what Elon Musk and Prime Minister Modi may discuss. Now, this is going to be an important one. Remember last year, Elon Musk was supposed to come to India the Indian government had offered him the scheme for promotion of electric car manufacturing in India, whereby he was to invest something like 4,150 crores over a 5-year period, and he would get a duty concession of 15% as opposed to 100% currently. He would be able to import 8,000 electric cars into India per year at a 15% duty. He was set to come here, announce manufacturing, also announced plans for Starlink and SpaceX, but he cancelled that visit at the last moment. Will he now announce some plans for manufacturing? Unlikely, but we believe that the meeting between Musk and Modi will definitely be a friendly one. But he would want lower tariffs on electric cars, he would want early approvals for Starlink, and he would also want deeper collaboration between SpaceX and ISRO. Let me go across to Siddhant once again. Siddhant, just looking at the kind of people who would be calling on the PM this morning, Vivek Ramaswamy, Elon Musk and Mike Waltz. It is important to note, while Trump is combative, transactional, India does have a lot of support in the new administration as well. Just look at Mike Waltz. He's a big India supporter. He was the former co-chair of the India caucus in the Congress. So there are people whom we can count on in the Trump administration as well.
Well, absolutely. And Parikshit, the idea of this early visit to DC is to bank upon the personal rapport of Prime Minister Modi with President Donald Trump. And as you rightly said, that not just one, but there are list of senior officials in Trump administration, those who are China hawk, pro-India in their approach. In fact, from Mike Waltz to Vivek Ramaswamy to Elon Musk to Tulsi Gabbard, there's list of senior officials, perhaps those who are interested in doing things with India and look at India positively, and that is perhaps is in favor of India, especially when we are speaking at a times when Donald Trump is in a combative mode. He would impose tariff on India, he would push India for more defense deals, etc., etc. At the same time, Parikshit, we have been told that Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy, Mike Waltz, all three of them are going to meet Prime Minister Modi, to call on Prime Minister Modi today ahead of his meeting with Donald Trump in White House. Prime Minister has already met JD Vance in Paris at AI Action Summit. Tulsi Gabbard, the newly confirmed National Intelligence Chief of United States, has already called on Prime Minister Modi. So, there is a lot of positivity and optimism for India in United States. There's no doubt about it. And as I said before, Parikshit, Donald Trump has won elections with a thumping majority. It's time for him to deliver. He wants to be seen in action. He wants to be breaking deals with countries. And it's his style of taking leverage over other countries by, creating a lot of pressure, creating a lot of noise that I will impose tariff, I'll do this, I'll do that. But you see, there are two recent precedents, how the tariffs were imposed on Mexico and Canada, and within 24 hours, those tariffs were paused. So, that is how Donald Trump is. He wants to be seen as a hero for United States, for his people, for the MAGA supporters, and perhaps, if India could manage him, could give him what he wants, perhaps it's not very difficult to handle Donald Trump. And Trump also understands the importance of India, especially with regards to this entire Indo-Pacific theater. As far as containing China is concerned, India has a bigger role to play in geopolitics.
Clearly, and in the next 2 to 3 hours, it will be clear what kind of reciprocal tariffs are being imposed by the White House and whether India is a target of those tariffs. In fact, experts here in Washington, D.C. have been saying that it's just a matter of time before Trump imposes tariffs on India as well, because he's called India a big abuser of tariffs in the past, a tariff king. And one of the White House officials very recently told CNBC International that India has enormous tariffs and it must be brought down for a fair trading relationship. For those of you watching the Modi-Trump meeting very closely, let me just tell you what's going to happen over the next few hours. At 2:30 a.m. India time, the President will be greeting the Prime Minister Narendra Modi. This will be at the White House. 2:35 a.m. Indian Standard Time, the President will host a bilateral meeting with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. You'll have the US media there in the White House. At 3:40 a.m. India time, the President will host a press conference with Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and there will be media both from the Indian side and the US side to ask questions, and that press conference will be very critical. It will be watched around the world, because somewhere what those two leaders say will really sum up the roadmap for the relationship over the next 7 to 8 months. Finally, at 4:10 a.m. India time, the President will be having dinner with Prime Minister Modi at the dining room in the White House. So this is what the schedule looks like right now. There will be a press conference by the Ministry of External Affairs to brief the Indian media on the outcomes of the visit. There will be a joint statement. One thing is to have media bites by the leaders, a press conference. The other thing is an actual page, a joint statement page that is issued after such a visit, which shows the intent, areas of priority for the relationship going forward. So that will have paragraphs on artificial intelligence, information technology, trade, defense, Indo-Pacific, and much more. So keep tuning in to CNN News 18 and all Network 18 channels for our latest coverage of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Washington, D.C.
The life of Prime Minister Modi underscores the limitless promise of this great nation. You are living proof that with hard work and devotion, Indians can accomplish anything, anything at all, anything they want.
Modi, India. Yeah. He's a friend of mine, he's great. But on the outside, he looks like he's your father. He's the nicest, total killer. Modi is fantastic. I mean, fantastic man. A lot of these leaders are fantastic. They are at the top. You know the expression, they're at the top of their game.
Prime Minister Modi has landed in Washington in chilly winter and into the front line of what is emerging as a potential trade war with the US.
We'll be signing reciprocal tariffs. The world has taken advantage of the United States for many years. They've charged us massive tariffs that we haven't charged them.
President Trump announced on Wednesday that he was preparing to introduce reciprocal tariffs on Wednesday night itself or by Thursday morning. In either case, that would, if this were to proceed as announced, come before the meeting between the Prime Minister and Trump, and that meeting is expected at 4 p.m. local time here in Washington on Thursday. Reciprocal tariffs, under which the US would impose tariffs just as high as the other country imposes on US goods, are not of course aimed only at India, but they could be aimed at India the most, for the reason that of all US trade partners, Indian tariffs are the highest by far, on average 6 to 7 times as high as those levied by the US, in some cases 100% or so. Trump has spoken of India as the tariff king, and he has called India a very big abuser of trade relationships. Trump has also taken aim at the trade imbalance with India, currently $30 to $40 billion estimated in India's advantage. The declared timing of this announcement on reciprocal tariffs is awkward for India, to say the least. There could be a case for talking with the Prime Minister first. The Prime Minister, of course, is right next door to the White House now, to see first what India has to say, what India can offer. The declared timing alone ought to set aside those notions, if anyone still holds on to those, that some personal rapport or friendship between the two leaders will override other considerations and deliver something wonderful for India. As External Affairs Minister Jaishankar said only the other day, the US has its interests, India has its own interests, and the idea would be to see where common ground could be sought. The Trump announcement that is expected and announced is not quite in that spirit. In anticipation, India has already announced reduced tariffs on motorcycles, on satellites, on a number of goods, and offered to buy more of US goods, agricultural goods, fuel, security goods, And these are goods really that Trump would want sold to India, not made in India. The Indian government has said it will wait for Trump to make his move before responding further. It may not have to wait long now. Prime Minister Modi has landed in Washington in chilling winter and into the front line of what is emerging as a potential trade war with the US.
We'll be signing reciprocal tariffs. The world has taken advantage of the United States for many years. They've charged us massive tariffs that we haven't charged them.
President Trump announced on Wednesday that he was preparing to introduce reciprocal tariffs on Wednesday night itself or by Thursday morning. In either case, that would, if this were to proceed as announced, come before the meeting between the Prime Minister and Trump, and that meeting is expected at 4 p.m. local time here in Washington on Thursday. Reciprocal tariffs, under which the US would impose tariffs just as high as the other country imposes on US goods, are not of course aimed only at India, but they could be aimed at India the most, for the reason that of all US trade partners, Indian tariffs are the highest by far, on average 6 to 7 times as high as those levied by the US, in some cases 100% or so. Trump has spoken of India as the tariff king, and he has called India a very big abuser of trade relationships. Trump has also taken aim at the trade imbalance with India, currently $30 to $40 billion estimated in India's advantage. The declared timing of this announcement on reciprocal tariffs is awkward for India, to say the least. There could be a case for talking with the Prime Minister first. The Prime Minister, of course, is right next door to the White House now, to see first what India has to say, what India can offer. The declared timing alone ought to set aside those notions, if anyone still holds on to those, that some personal rapport or friendship between the two leaders will override other considerations and deliver something wonderful for India. As External Affairs Minister Jaishankar said only the other day, the US has its interests, India has its own interests, and the idea would be to see where common ground could be sought. The Trump announcement that is expected and announced is not quite in that spirit. In anticipation, India has already announced reduced tariffs on motorcycles, on satellites, on a number of goods, and offered to buy more of US goods, agricultural goods, fuel, security goods. And these are goods really that Trump would want sold to India, not made in India. The Indian government has said it will wait for Trump to make his move before responding further. It may not have to wait long now. Prime Minister Modi has landed in Washington in chilling winter and into the front line of what is emerging as a potential trade war with the US.
We'll be signing reciprocal tariffs. The world has taken advantage of the United States for many years. They've charged us massive tariffs that we haven't charged them.
President Trump announced on Wednesday that he was preparing to introduce reciprocal tariffs on Wednesday night itself or by Thursday morning. In either case, that would, if this were to proceed as announced, come before the meeting between the Prime Minister and Trump, and that meeting is expected at 4 p.m. local time here in Washington on Thursday. Reciprocal tariffs, under which the US would impose tariffs just as high as the other country imposes on US goods, are not of course aimed only at India, but they could be aimed at India the most, for the reason that of all US trade partners, Indian tariffs are the highest by far, on average 6 to 7 times as high as those levied by the US, in some cases 100% or so. Trump has spoken of India as the tariff king, and he has called India a very big abuser of trade relationships. Trump has also taken aim at the trade imbalance with India, currently $30 to $40 billion estimated in India's advantage. The declared timing of this announcement on reciprocal tariffs is awkward for India, to say the least. There could be a case for talking with the Prime Minister first. The Prime Minister, of course, is right next door to the White House now, to see first what India has to say, what India can offer. The declared timing alone ought to set aside those notions, if anyone still holds on to those, that some personal rapport or friendship between the two leaders will override other considerations and deliver something wonderful for India. As External Affairs Minister Jaishankar said only the other day, the US has its interests, India has its own interests, and the idea would be to see where common ground could be sought. The Trump announcement that is expected and announced is not quite in that spirit. In anticipation, India has already announced reduced tariffs on motorcycles, on satellites, on a number of goods, and offered to buy more of US goods, agricultural goods, fuel, security goods, and
Good evening and welcome back. You're watching Nation at 5 here on CNN News 18 with me, Poonam Burde. The big story we're tracking at this hour is the political showdown that took place in the Rajya Sabha today over the JPC report on the Waqf Amendment Bill. Eventually, it was adopted by the House, but there was high drama when opposition alleged that the entire exercise of the JPC was a farce, that the report did not have any of their dissent notes. Several opposition MPs stood up and questioned why their dissent was redacted from the final report, a charge that the government outrightly rejected. Consensus was built eventually and the report was adopted by the upper house of the parliament amid din and a walkout from the opposition side.
डिसेंट नोट के व्यूज को प्रिंट करके या अपने रिपोर्ट में डाल के बोलना चाहिए, उसके बजाय उसको डिलीट करके अगर कोई रिपोर्ट होती है मैं उसको कंडेम करता हूं और ऐसे फर्जी रिपोर्ट को हम कभी नहीं मानेंगे।
हमने स्पीकर साहब को बताया कि हमारे जो डिसेंट नोट में कई पेजेस और पैराग्राफ्स को रीडैक्ट कर दिया गया है, तो स्पीकर साहब वाज वेरी काइंड इनफ, बहुत उन्होंने फौरन एसजी को बुलाया और कहा कि इनके साथ आप लोग बैठिए और देख लीजिए, रूल्स जो परमिट करता है उसको इंक्लूड करिए और जो नहीं करता है मत करिए।
जो स्टेक होल्डर्स नहीं है उनको बुला के उनके बातें दर्ज की गई और हम लोग जो मेंबर हैं जेपीसी के, हमने जो अपना पक्ष रखा, हमने जो अपना विरोध दर्ज कराया, उसको जेपीसी की रिपोर्ट में शामिल तक नहीं किया गया। ये संसदीय परंपराओं का, संवैधानिक मान्यताओं का खुलेआम मर्दन है, उसको कुचला गया है।
सभागार है और जब कोई
विपक्ष के कुछ सदस्यों ने आपत्ति जताई है कि इनके जो विमत है, डिस्प्यूट्स है, इनको पूरी तरह से नहीं रखा गया है। मैं मेरी पार्टी की ओर से आपको विनती करना चाहता हूं कि विपक्ष के जो डिस्प्यूट्स हैं एक सिरनीर कर आप संसदीय कार्यप्रणालिका के उपयुक्त रूप में जो जोड़ना है वो जोड़े, इसमें मेरी पार्टी को कोई आपत्ति नहीं।
every view, whether those who are considered by majority or those who are rejected by the majority, all reports are included. dissent note में कुछ पॉइंट्स जो चेयरमैन को लगता है कि ये कमेटी के ऊपर में सवाल उठाता है, तो उसको हटाने का अधिकार भी चेयरमैन के पास है।
The minister has said categorically, and then the clarification about the rules are very clear, but we are being misled in this house as though there's a wrong thing. The minister in your presence is saying the truth and they don't want to even look at, and here is a member who says, how does the minister know?
Colleagues Payal and Pallavi join us on this broadcast, getting us more perspective. Payal, both the houses seem to have passed over this issue as far as the JPC report on the Waqf goes. There was high drama, at least in the upper house, but eventually it was adopted. What next?
Sabha MPs were smarter. Probably they went to the Lok Sabha Speaker before the start of the proceedings and they got their amendments approved, essentially saying that they would be allowed to give in the dissent notes in a more detail, except for the ones where you could actually see disrespect being shown to the chair or some kind of apprehension being expressed on the way in which the committee is conducted itself. So having said that, now that the report is currently out and of course the amended form is out, what happens from here on is that this report will also be adopted further by the Union Cabinet. Once it's adopted by the Union Cabinet may decide to bring in a fresh bill on its own or probably just amend this bill and bring it further, because there are 14 amendments to the bill that has been, put into or rather recommended by the JPC as well. And once that cabinet approves that new bill, it will be brought to the parliament for its passage, and of course can be passed with a simple majority. So numbers should not really be an issue for the BJP NDA government, given the fact that NDA ally partners, including the likes of TDP and JDU, are also very much on board for this bill.
Right, stay on with us. Pallavi is also with us. And Pallavi, what is going to be the opposition strategy from here on? Because we heard the dissent that came to the fore on the floor of the House from the Congress especially. But now that there is going to be a break between the second session of the budget session, what is it that the India bloc plans to do?
Well, see, on the last day, Poonam, they've pretty much put up a fight because that's what matters to their constituency, whether it's AIMIM or TMC, the Congress and the Samajwadi Party. They were very much catering to their own minority vote bank. But now they're going to keep all eyes going on what is going to be the new amended work of bill based on the JPC report. So that's going to be something they're going to keep an eye on. I think they're going to wait to see what kind of a bill comes up in the next part of the budget session. The possibility of going in for a legal option in case the bill is tabled, it's not up to them, and in case the bill is passed, that is something which is also not being ruled out.
Right, sorry to interrupt you there, Pallavi, will come back to you, but tossing across to Anand Narasimhan, he's joined by the JPC Waqf Board Chairman.
Joining us now is Shri Jagdambika Pal, the chair of the JPC on the Waqf Amendment Bill, veteran politician also. Jagdambika Pal ji, namaste. This is Anand Narasimhan here. Thank you for speaking with us.
Namaste.
My first question is this entire confusion on the dissent notes. और ये कहकर कि जो JPC की जो report that's been tabled in Parliament had the dissent notes missing.
I fail to understand why my some honorable member of Parliament, those who were part and parcel of this JPC, and they are very senior leaders also, they are quite well aware about of the rules and procedure of the JPC also. If now, today, if there was an agenda to lay this report, so the report comprising 421 pages and the note of dissent by 12 member of Parliament is 282 pages. So Mr. Narasimhan, I think so if any note of dissent, if in number of 282 pages, don't you think that it is not sufficient? What is the note of dissent? There is a set procedure in parliamentary democracy कि now if any matter, if any bill, या if any subject, if has been referred to the JPC by Honorable Speaker, so only what is the role of the JPC? JPC is only is a domain कि just to scrutinize whatever the amendments was just brought by the government. So there were 44 amendments takes place. So we had gone for the scrutiny of all the 44. At least in last 6 months, we have just done detailed exercise, exhaustive exercise. We have met hundreds of stakeholders, hundreds of High Court, Supreme Court, lawyers, judges, Islamic scholars, government officials. We have toured also, we have covered Maharashtra, Gujarat, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Telangana, Assam, Odisha, Bihar, West Bengal and UP. Number of government officials, we have talked to everybody, and I must be thankful to all my member of parliament, either from opposition, either from ruling wing. It makes no difference for me who belongs to which party, because I was chairman. There I never behaved like a on partisan line. So certainly they have attended all the meetings. Even they were part of tour also. So they have completely participated throughout in last 6 months. And even if 282 pages, 81 pages, already it is attached in appendix, annexure also. And then why they are creating a confusion कि now are some contents, some parts of dissent note has been deleted by the chairman, it has been not on the record. Even then, if Honorable Home Minister Shri Amit Shah ji stood on the House and he has made a request to the Speaker, now if there is some apprehension from the opposition, if they have met with you, and if they are saying now there are some, I think so, part which is not a part of note of dissent, so even our party has no order. So I think so for the first time in the parliamentary history, a home minister and senior leader who stood up and who has categorically he has said, it is true, Honorable Speaker, we don't have any objection. And Honorable Speaker is a very kind enough that he has said on the floor of the House, now it will be incorporated. So then I don't know why then they have walked out. Is it fair in parliamentary democracy? In opposition members, they only used to walk out against the government. But today, Speaker, whatever they were demanding, Speaker was kind enough, he was quite agreed, and if he had just accepted his demand, whatever your protest, that will be look into it and it will be incorporated.
Right.
They have walked out against the chair.
No,
it is not a blot on the parliamentary democracy. I don't know.
The issue is the fact that they were upset, the opposition was upset that whatever their notes were of dissent had been actually removed from the report that was supposed to be tabled in Parliament. That's where their object, and only after the intervention of the Lok Sabha Speaker, nearly 70% of it came back, barring certain personal observations against you, which are against the rules. The rest came back only after the Lok Sabha Speaker intervened, and then he called on the Secretary General, and then they did. So their allegation is, why did you, as JPC chair, why were their notes or their observations removed in the first place? That's the question they have been asking, and that's why perhaps the ruckus happened.
If you are asking this question, then I can say it is not true. It is not true. Okay. Whatever they are saying, I think so. They are enough capable to say why they are saying, but I think so. They are only giving message to either they are doing some vote politics, vote bank politics. Otherwise, I don't know if 81 pages were attached in an annexure as a dissent note, and if still we have incorporated, everything is on the record of the Parliament, and when you will see what 281 pages was already attached with the report now of JPC, and now what again after intervention of the Speaker and now Home Minister, what he has given a statement, if what we have incorporated, I think so you will see what they have given in objection, now we have not given adequate time to just explain ourselves. I think that these are maximum. Every day there were meeting was lasting for 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours. I think so the whole country, this JPC, I think so in last 6 months, more than 118 hours we have met, and we have discussed in detail with all the ministry, with the stakeholders, more than 38 meetings. It is next to impossible in parliamentary history. It is next to impossible in parliamentary history, Mr. Narasimhan, that now in 5 months, 38 meetings, it is not possible to take place.
I totally appreciate, sir. I totally appreciate.
Chairman, and
I totally appreciate in your leadership the amount of time, 110 hours plus has been dedicated towards this JPC, 38 meetings have been held, and you have very clearly maintained that all that their objections were have already been incorporated. The other objection they raised, and this was raised by Kalyan Banerjee of Trinamool, is the fact that this JPC was constituted in the Lok Sabha under the aegis of the Speaker. Why is it that this report was tabled in the Rajya Sabha? And the other thing they are saying is that the Rajya Sabha report did not have the inclusions back, whatever the intervention of the Lok Sabha Speaker, 70% of what was moved out coming back in. That's what they are alleging. Ki Rajya Sabha mein kyun kiya? It should have been in the Lok Sabha. Why rush to table it in the Rajya Sabha? It's also not parliamentary convention. That's what the argument is.
नरसिम्हन जी, दोनों हाउसेज में टेबल आज ही था, दोनों हाउसेज में एक साथ होता है जो प्रक्रिया होती है कि अगर मैं आज लोकसभा में उसको टेबल कर रहा था तो आज ही राज्यसभा में टेबल हो रहा था, बट इट इज नाउ ए प्रेरोगेटिव ऑफ द स्पीकर. आई थिंक सो एवरीबडी इज एन आई विटनेस कि व्हेन क्वेश्चन आवर बिगिंस ओनली बिकॉज ऑफ सर्टेन what the scene has been created by the opposition. If Speaker has adjourned the House by 2, so I think so. Are you going to, Mr. Kalyan Banerjee, question on Speaker decision? Otherwise, so after question hour, what is the procedure? What is the set practice? Question hour will be, well, after question hour, I was ready to lay this report, and even not only report, I think so if you will go through an agenda, so on number 24, I have to lay my report of 421 pages. And number 25, now more than 2,775 pages of records of evidence by the stakeholders.
Okay.
It is also attached with the annexure. 2,775. I have made a history. I did a very hard work, and with honestly, I think so. Though I don't know ki they want to what type of message they are
trying
whom
to
they want
you?
to give. But in my constituency, I can feel proud कि my constituency dominated by minority. In my constituency, more than 35% of the minority vote. But they are all satisfied. They knew about my character also. So I think so. Maybe they are claiming, but they can't blame. They are very secular and this report.
क्या कर रहे हैं? Are they trying to discredit you, sir? Are they trying to discredit the report, the amendment, thought this? Because Mr. Kharge said कि देश भर में protest भी हो जाएंगे, and then they all walked out also. आज तो सिर्फ report table होनी थी, आज तो debate भी नहीं है, discussion भी नहीं है.
लेकिन इसके बाद भी अगर चेयरमैन साहब ने राज्यसभा में इजाजत उनको दे दी, तो ये तो डेमोक्रेसी देखिए. आखिर आज तो केवल 2 लाइन में रिपोर्ट ले होनी थी राज्यसभा में, लोकसभा में, लेकिन इवन देन आई थिंक सो चेयरमैन ऑफ राज्यसभा वेरी काइंड एनफ, जिनको लोग कहते हैं बहुत सख्त हैं, उन्होंने ही हैज हर्ड टू एवरीबडी एंड एवरीबडी वाज जस्ट आई थिंक सो मेक एनी एलिगेशंस ऑन चेयरमैन ऑफ JPC. आई थिंक खरगे जी इज वेरी सीनियर लीडर. I don't know कि he is not aware कि now note of dissent is always part of annexure. It is not the first JPC. Earlier also JPC. I think so. In JPC, a report of JPC is one part, and if second part is a note of dissent, that will be a second part that will be attached in annexure, and third part कि if JPC has met with a number of stakeholders, so even the record of the evidence also will be attached. So I think so 996 pages today I have given, I have just placed on table of the house, and even then more than 2,775 pages as a record of evidence also, more than 281 pages as a note of dissent. What anyone can do as a chairman more than that?
Well, let's just hope all parliamentarians read this and we have a sane, informed debate when Parliament reconvenes again. Jagdambika Palji, thank you very, very much, and appreciate the efforts taken by the JPC on a matter of national importance and the seriousness that it's been given. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
On that note, it's quickly over across to Rahul Shivshankar, who's in conversation with Ambassador Taranjit Singh Sandhu.
Thanks indeed. Anand, let's go straight across to Mr. Taranjit Sandhu, who was, of course, India's envoy to the United States right before this current envoy. Mr. Sandhu, thank you for speaking to me. Mr. Trump is meeting the Prime Minister in just his first month. Can you explain the significance of Mr. Trump prioritizing ties with India?
So Rahul, yes, the timing is very significant. We have all been reading about Trump 2.0. I just want to mention here that in Trump 1.0, President Trump and Prime Minister Modi developed a very good relationship, and President Trump has often spoken about it. Prime Minister Modi has also, in his tweets, can be seen there. Now, what is the importance of this early meeting? As you very clearly pointed out, it's in the first 3-4 weeks. India is one of the important countries. I think that's the signal that comes. And secondly, as I have mentioned, that both Prime Minister and President have a good relationship, which also means that they have been having candid conversations with each other. It's very important that early in the administration, there is an exchange of views, a frank exchange of views about international situation as well as bilateral ties.
Now, Mr. Trump has met Mr. Netanyahu. He has met the Japanese Premier and King Abdullah II of Jordan. Now, what's the pattern here?
Look, I think, Rahul, I'll leave it to President Trump's team and you to see the pattern. But I can certainly tell you that, look, two of them are Quad leaders, and the other two, of course, are very important vis-a-vis the current issues. Israel's and Jordan's importance. And I think Middle East is quite on his agenda.
So the prioritization of ties with India, Trump suggests, and there are many who are interpreting this, suggests that Delhi is an important player when it comes to competing effectively against China. That's what's being said. What does Trump see for India in his second term? You know, we've observed the bonhomie in the first term. Some issues were left unresolved, but in this second term, where does India slot in?
So Rahul, you know, if I take you along from 2014 onwards, there's always been challenges, and those have been converted into opportunities. So 2014, you recall when Prime Minister Modi came for the first time, and then again there was a change in 2020. Before that in 2017 when Trump 1 came, and 2020, and this is 2025. So I think what is important is that certainly these are relations between two democracies, and there will be issues. And let me not minimize those. Challenges will come. But I'm confident that both sides, and Prime Minister Modi has dealt with these challenges in the past. They of course become different every time, but those will be converted into opportunities.
And what are these opportunities? What do you see are the opportunities coming out?
So let me take out of Prime Minister's tweet himself. There are 5 clear areas which are going to be taken up as per what he has put out, and in each of these there is an element which is a challenge and an opportunity. So let me start with the trade. You know, we are hearing so much about the trade, and we are hearing about tariffs, etc., etc. You know, India, US are important trade partners. When they talk of tariffs, what exactly he means is a kind of imbalance, meaning that the surplus is in favor of India, about $45 billion. Now, compared to some of the other countries, it's not that much, but yes, it is. So what happens? So obviously, President Trump has been talking about high tariffs on some of the areas. Agriculture is one, automobiles, etc., etc. There are areas in that. But we also have issues of access to US market. So that's where the opportunity lies. And that's where the deal will come. It will not come tomorrow itself. And when people are talking about that tariffs will be put, look, it's a much bigger issue than just India. There are a number of countries who are going to be impacted, including some of the allies. So I am confident that the deal will come, but it provides an opportunity for the deal. So the challenge and opportunity. And here, if I may also add, look, there is defense. You have seen, he has mentioned about it. Our defense relationship, US has become a major pillar of our defense relationship. In fact, in 2020, when Chinese came uninvited to our border, it must be brought here that, you know, it was President Trump who was the president at that time, and came out in solid support of India. And so there is an issue. We require top of the line equipment. And here I repeat, top of the line. And obviously at favorable terms. And that's where the negotiation will come. And some of the other aspects, tech transfer, you know, co-production, operational logistics, which are going on. So we had the first defense, what is called, we have a 10-year framework. First one was in 2005. The second one was in 2015. And the third one is going to come about in 2025. So that will be part of the discussions. Similarly, energy. Energy is a very important issue. India has huge energy requirements. And United States today has become a major producer of energy. And it's trying to export. The exports to India actually started in Trump 1.0. And those will definitely be deepened because there is a scope of what we are generally call about diversification of energy resources. And therefore, I think that will be expanded. We also know about the nuclear part, the smaller nuclear reactors. That's very much now in vogue, and US is one of the important producers. So that will also be there. Then tech cooperation. I don't need to elaborate there. I said, about new emerging technologies, about cyber, we know about artificial intelligence. So much has been spoken about it. Now that is an area where again, both will collaborate. And finally, what Prime Minister Modi underlined was supply chains. Now, secure supply chains was actually initiated by President Trump during the COVID time. And that is an important strategic part of what you initially alluded to. So India is an important partner for secure supply chains. And there are lots of other international issues also. So I will stop here. These all will be part of the discussion.
Now, there is a shadow, and perhaps you could illuminate upon this, because there is a shadow on ties with regards to these deportations and the manner in which illegal Indians have been sent back home in military aircrafts, bound in shackles, and so on and so forth. So, are we expecting Mr. Trump to make some concessions?
So, Rahul, illegal people are a problem internationally.
Yeah.
And illegals are a problem in India too. There is a particular issue, it often comes up. So we need to understand that. But let me put it in perspective. So first, what you have raised is an issue of treatment. And if there was any ill treatment, already the External Affairs Ministry has said, and the Minister has said that we have taken it up and we will take it up. And if there's a need for Prime Minister to take it up, I'm sure he is savvy enough to discuss that with President Trump. But there is other angles of this. One important angle is that a lot of illegals are languishing in the US prisons. And US prisons are not the most comfortable to be living in. So this youth, they all actually went after the summer of last year. These are very recent entrants. And they are back home. They are back with their parents. So that's an important part. But even more important part is, what about those agents who took them out? Who took 35 to 40 lakhs rupees from each? In fact, during the last year campaign, in April, it's on record, I had raised it a number of times since I was contesting in Amritsar, that please don't go out. US is going in for elections. Irrespective of the candidate who comes, the illegals will be sent back.
Okay.
And exactly that has happened. And finally, if I may just add here,
please,
we need to keep in mind that the real solution is in education and ensuring they have appropriate skills. And the government in this budget has focused on it.
Now, talking about opportunities, and this is something that many people are now beginning to talk about. Remember, this conversation will be happening in the backdrop of a couple of announcements that have been made by Mr. Trump. Number one, that he had a conversation with Mr. Putin, and he had a conversation, number two, with Mr. Zelensky, and there seems to be, at least on both sides, a willingness to at least begin a talk process that could lead to some sort of détente. Now, India has access to both these leaders, Putin and Zelensky, via Mr. Modi. Do you see the prioritization of the meeting with Mr. Modi as Mr. Trump using his leverage, perhaps, to open doors and conclude what has been a protracted, terrible and wasteful conflict over the last 3 years, sir?
So, Rahul, on this conflict, I really don't need to comment because President Trump has been commenting on it and with the words which you hear all the time. But the important part which you have raised is India's role in those international conflicts. Look, in fact, I will just point to the US NSA, NSA Waltz. If you have heard his interview just this Sunday, and he has spoken about Prime Minister Modi's visit to United States, and also that these important issues, Middle East, Ukraine, Russia, they will be part of the discussions, and they are looking forward to India playing a role in that. So I'm certain that will also come up in the discussions. And as you have said, India is a positive player. The thinking on these problems is very similar. I think, as Prime Minister Modi has said, this is not an era of war. And if you hear President Trump again and again saying, alluding to all the suffering that is happening. So I agree with you. I think India will be a player in that.
Thank you. Thank you, sir, for spending time here and putting it into perspective. Thank you very much. We value your inputs. And of course, we look forward to speaking to you again and looking at the outcomes. Thank you very much. Over to Griya Atul to take it through.
Good evening and a warm welcome. I'm Griya Atul and you're watching Plain Speak. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has arrived in Washington for a crucial two-day visit to the US. He was welcomed by the Indian community at Blair House, marking his first meeting with President Donald Trump since the latter's return to the White House. The Modi-Trump camaraderie played a key role during Trump's first tenure, and this visit signals a push to further strengthen the India-US ties. For New Delhi, a face-to-face between the two leaders